Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis, and I'm your host. Today, I have a very special guest, Rick Gillis, who has been involved in the business of employment since 1997, when he was instrumental in introducing the first local employment website to the greater Houston, Texas market. Since that time, Rick has aggressively studied employment, advancement, promotion, and pay. With the publication coming in the summer of 2021 of his sixth book, Leveling the Playing Field, a groundbreaking approach to achieving fair pay, Rick has taken on the resolution of the pay disparity issue from the viewpoint of the employee as well as the employer. Rick believes not only equal pay for equal work, but also in the proper pay for the best performance, an assertion that consciously eliminates discrimination of any kind from the discussion. This far-reaching discussion with Rick will touch on aspects of a worker's commercial value, regardless of the position you hold, as well as how to achieve that promotion using your personal best achievements. And now, without further ado, Mr. Rick Gillis. Welcome, Rick.
Luis, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm so excited to have you here, man.
Good. I hope I don't let you down.
Oh, definitely not. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, I wanted to ask you before we get into all the good stuff that people sign in for. I wanted, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up being the pay disparity guru.
Wow. You know what, Luis? And to tell your audience, you and I met at my very first presentation I did in Las Vegas for my original book, The Quotient, which was this coming book. And what happened, just for your audience's sake, I self-published that book, and then I got offered a traditional deal. So now it's going to be called Leveling the Playing Field, and it'll be coming out next summer, like you just said.
Congratulations.
But I was out in Vegas, and I spoke to your group, and that's how you and I met, and your wife. We met out there, and obviously we hit it off. But to ask me, here's my point for telling you all that. The original Quotient book did not tell the beginning of my story, which honestly, I had to think about it for a while. But here's the truth. When I was 16 years old, I was working a part-time job after school. My single mom was working full-time job, taking care of me and my brother. That part-time job was paying me at minimum $60 a week. My mom was working 5.5 days a week, making $50 a week. True story. And I always knew there was something wrong with that. And what I was doing, this part-time job was assembling parts. I went to this manufacturing company. This is in El Paso. And I picked up all these parts on Monday and I took them home. And through the week, I assembled these little parts. This is what I was assembling. It was a quick disconnect. And this, I still kept one of these. Now, every time I assembled and turned in one of these, I got paid 10 cents. And this thing is a little quick disconnect. It's got a spring. Let's make sure I'm in the camera. It's got a little spring. It disconnects. This thing actually went on the Apollo mission. It was with a company called Continental Water Conditioning. And they told me after the fact, hey, your connector went to the moon. I'm like, wow, that's cool. You know, I was 16 years old, but my mom used to help me assemble these things, and my brother, when we needed more money. So anyway, my point to telling you this is this pay disparity thing is something I've always been about. It's taken me all these years of getting into employment and working with professionals. And I say professionals all the way from entry-level college, just new college graduates, to CEOs. I've helped all these people land. And over and over and over, what happened is I would meet people, work with people that could tell me what they did, but could not tell me the value of what they had done. And that was really important. For instance, I had a guy tell me that he had worked on and spec'd and delivered and installed $3 million worth of software for his company. And his idea of achievement was it came in on time and on budget. Well, that's a good thing. However, that's not the accomplishment. The accomplishment is that, and he couldn't answer when I said, no, what was the result of that installation? He couldn't answer that. I was asking him, I said, did you reduce man-over? Did you increase efficiencies? And I asked him all these questions, and he couldn't answer that. And that's what got me thinking about this thing, the Quotient, which is, even though the book is called Leveling the Playing Field, the Quotient is the fundamental tool inside that. And we'll talk about that as you want.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's quite the shift in mindset to say, hey, not only did I do this, but what was the result to the employer, the business?
And that is how you stress your value. One of the things that I talk about always, and this is another thing, Luis, that I find very fascinating, honestly, because I studied business in college, and I just have an undergraduate degree in business. But one of the things that I've realized in the past few years is people need to know what their commercial value is to themselves and to their employer. And this is not talking about market value. Market value, you can look it up. You can go to Glassdoor, you can look PayScale, salary.com. You can find your market value. That's the should be considered the baseline of what you would be paid for the job that you do with your experience, credentials, et cetera. Commercial value is what you're worth to yourself and to your employer. And for instance, let's say that you are, as a result of your efforts, you were able to increase the value of your department, your company by, let's just say, just square numbers, let's say $1 million. If I can find somebody who can do what you did for me for less money, your commercial value is not as high as you think it is. In other words, if I can find now, if you can do the work of 3 people, your commercial value is really high. So commercial value is a concept that goes along with my accomplishments mindset, which is basically a salesperson's point of view. And I guess, as you can tell, I've always been in sales. I mean, I'm not shy. I love people. I don't have a problem with a cold call. I'm great with a cold phone call. I don't care. I don't, maybe I think I've built a little shell in front of myself that says it's okay to do that, because that's not easy. But the whole idea of a salesman's point of view is that if I don't sell something this week, I don't have a job next week. If I don't sell something this week, I may not get paid next week. However, the person who takes home a paycheck doesn't see things like that. They just go, I need to do enough work to get to Friday to get my paycheck. And then they go home and they don't really dwell on the job, think about what they're doing at work. And then they get back Monday and they re-engage by 9, 10, 11 o'clock. The salesman's point of view, the accomplishments mindset, means you've always got to be paying attention to how you're adding value to your organization. That ties in with accomplishments, and that ties in with the commercial value piece. So there's a big arc of things that I have realized, because I've been working with job seekers now for 20 plus years, and I've got 6 CEOs under my belt. I've got countless senior vice presidents, executive VPs, but I've also got, hundreds, if probably not thousands, of brand new college graduates that I have worked with, and I've spoken before groups all over the nation. So all of that has been, you asked me, where did all this start? It started with that piece of me making more money than my mom at 16. But it's just, and listen, this has not been by choice. When I moved to Houston 25 years ago, I had no intention I was going into the job board business. As a matter of fact, the internet didn't even exist when I moved here, or it was just barely starting. And I helped launch the very first job board in Houston, Texas. And because the Houston Chronicle declared that internet thing was going to be a fad, it was going to go away, we had almost no competition for 2 years. I mean, they didn't push out there, and it was an unnatural market, and I loved it, and we exploited the heck out of it. We were very, very successful.
Wow, that's amazing. So based on what you're telling me, it sounds like somebody that needs to identify the difference between their market value and commercial value. I was reading in your earlier book about thinking like an owner. Is that what it all ties it in together?
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, too, Luis, it's important. The new book basically reads the same as the copy that you have, the original book. It's much cleaner. It's tighter. I got a better editor. But basically, the information you have in my original book that you got when we met, keep it. I hope it becomes a collectible one day. But thinking like an owner, yes, that is exactly what this is about. Every individual should always be thinking about themselves as an owner of their business, even if it means just their desk, and they're sharing an office with a bunch of other people, or you're in a pooled environment. And especially right now during pandemic, where everybody's working individual, you've got to think like an owner and contribute like an owner. And at some point in life, you either become senior, you become management, or you do go off and become an owner because you've embraced this whole mentality of this commercial value thing. And As an employee, as a solo entrepreneur like myself, that if you don't generate, you have to generate X revenue plus enough to cover your costs of doing business. Whether it's, in my case, I work solo, but I pay for a bookkeeper. I have an attorney that I have on retainer. I have several professionals that I have to refer to and do on a regular basis. So yeah, if you can't pay for that, go ahead and if I can't make it, I'm going to Home Depot. I'll go sell hardware somewhere.
Gotcha. So a lot of people think that their work speaks for themselves, especially when it's time to ask for a raise or a promotion, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you what, you can see behind me the red book. Your work does not speak for itself, you do. And I got to tell you, interestingly, when I first published this book, now this was self-published, the original subtitle was "Your Work Does Not Speak for Itself, You Do." Okay, that's convoluted as heck, but it's a great line. Your work does not speak for itself. It's who knows what you know that makes a career. That was the original cover and the original title for Promote. And the subtitle was it's who knows what you know that makes a career. And I was doing a radio interview one evening on the book, and all of a sudden I said, no, wait, you don't understand. Your work does not speak for itself. You do. And I immediately clicked. I went, that's such a much better subtitle. And I went to my whiteboard and I wrote it down while I was live on the air. I wrote that down real quick and kept talking. And then I went and changed the cover to this. So yeah, here's the thing. A lot of people, particularly non-sales people, are afraid of speaking up for themselves because they think they might be boasting or bragging. This is not about boasting or bragging. Nobody wants to deal with a braggart. But informing and sharing your boss and his boss and her boss, and I mean all the way up and down the line, because your immediate supervisor might get terminated, might get a promotion, might leave for another opportunity. You want to be the person that those higher ups know about. So always share your accomplishments with those people up and down the line, and be prepared and don't be shy. And I'll explain a little bit about how to do that. Don't be shy about speaking to that senior VP in the elevator when it's just you and her, when you get in there and say, and she says, well, what you been up to lately? Well, I'd like you to know about lately I came up with this opportunity, and I saw this opportunity to shave about 16 minutes off of the daily work process for such and such. And I think it's going to save some man hours for the company. Whoa, that's a win. That's a big deal. And remember, too, when you run into a supervisor, they have been where you're at. So they appreciate this stuff. And don't think that what you do is beneath sharing with them. They will appreciate it. And more importantly, you get placed top of mind. So when there is an opportunity, you can say, look, Luis, that kid is on his way. I really think we should move him up. I don't want to lose him to the competition. And it could be just because of an elevator, just a 30-second ride, a 20-second ride.
Got it. So be ready at any moment to point out your wins without sounding like you're bragging.
And it's not bragging when you're just sharing and informing, because it's like I say in the book, if you're out to dig somebody, if you're out to talk your boss down or make him look bad or her bad, that's the topic of another book. That's not what I promote.
Gotcha. And I know some people in sharing their wins might be concerned that their idea might be then taken by a manager or something like that and put out there as their own. What are your thoughts on that? How can you help somewhat navigate
that's why I insist that you share this above and beyond your immediate supervisor. Now, let me tell you what, I have a chapter in the book called, let's see, what is it called? Your employer is not responsible for pointing out your wins. Okay. Now that's a big deal. And that's where we go to the quotient piece. But there's also the follow-up chapter that is that you are responsible for pointing out your wins. So let's say your boss, and I think this is the illustration I use in the book, your boss is human resources, and your boss is reporting to a senior vice president, and they're saying, how did that rewrite go on the new human resources manual? And he says, I got it completed. Great, good job. That's it. That's all we know. There's no scrolling credits in accomplishments when your boss is in front of his boss. But on the way, it would be the best if he said, oh, by the way, I had 3 of my staff work on this thing for the last 2 weeks. They got it put together. I reviewed it. I approved it. Here it is. But that's not the way it works. It's I got the assignment. I did the deal. And that's business. That's not inappropriate. But like I said, it's important that you be prepared to stand up and say, I was on of a team that did the human resources manual updates, and I'm really proud of my work. Don't be afraid. That's not sharing. I mean, that's not bragging or boasting. That's informing, and that's fair. That's always fair.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Yeah, that your employer is not responsible for pointing out your wins. So let me ask you this: that leading up to you being able to articulate those wins, what do you recommend people do as far as like keeping track of performance related results as part of what they did?
Okay, that's we're getting into the meat of the quotient, and I appreciate that, Luis. What do you do? First of all, and this is a little tedious, and I appreciate that it's tedious, and I understand that, but honestly, I think we all do this kind of anyway. I recommend that at the end of your workday, assuming you are, in an environment where you're a paycheck employee, because salespeople have to do this anyway. Salespeople have to report their performance every single week. Every week they turn in that sales report Friday afternoon. If you don't have it, don't leave, or you're not going to get paid or whatever. But I maintain that everybody who receives a paycheck should be putting daily reminders at the end of the day, 3 to 5 minutes before you leave the office. Write down a few things that you did that day that might be important. Just making notes for something that might be important later. It may not be important now, but let me tell you what, accomplishments do not happen over the course of one day. They will accumulate and maybe make themselves apparent in one day. But that one day may be after a year's worth of work or 3 months of work or 3 weeks. So you should make notes. And one of the things I'm really fond of telling people is to copy relevant email and paste it inside your calendar, which is really easy. Well, at least in Outlook, it's really easy to do. So if you save those emails, that you can open them up, that'll have the names, the participants, what happened, what was said, et cetera, et cetera. It's a great way to have information that you can refer to. And more importantly, when you present accomplishments, you must be able to defend them. And you must be, as far as valuations go, you must be conservative unless you have accurate numbers, real numbers. And those real numbers, if you collect that stuff, information along the way, you're actually doing the inventory. And listen, all of this is aimed towards your annual performance review. All of this is aimed at. So when you go to get ready for your annual performance review, you can go back and start just scroll through your calendar and go, whoa, Thursday, April 21st. I forgot all about that. And boom, because that particular project didn't come to reality, didn't come to fruition until, say, September 22nd. So that's what I recommend doing, is tracking. And I'm talking 2 to 3 minutes. I'm not talking about if it's a big day, write it out. But otherwise, and then the other thing is too, I use personally, I use a little ampersand on the date, the date entry, which shows that there's notes underneath that marker.
Let yourself know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my personal, that's just my signal, my little symbol that says there's something underneath there, pay attention to it. So you got to put something to flag it. And I know there's a better app for that. There actually are apps out there for this kind of stuff. Your calendar is where you need it.
Got it. That is so valuable, because it's a lot better than just saying, hey, I'd like a raise, please.
Which doesn't work. Yeah, which doesn't work. So tell me, Luis, why do you think you're worth a raise?
Right.
Well, let me show you, and then have a list of accomplishments with values attached and just blow them their socks off. And that is my model.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. Do you recommend that somehow you translate or incorporate that into one's resume as well?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, one of the things, let me tell you what, Luis, in 22 years, matter of fact, by the time this airs, it'll be 23 years. In November of 1997, I helped start this first job board. That's the date I use to say how long I've been in this space. So that's 23 years, November. My secret sauce and my success for landing people, it's not negotiable, is putting together an accomplishments inventory. And it is part of the model in this book as well, because I've taken this whole history of working with job seekers and professionals and bringing them to this place. I require, and if somebody doesn't want to do this, I don't have a problem with it. I'm fine. I just won't work with you, because I don't really care. If you can't do this for me, we can't be successful. I require a client to give me 8 to 10 written personal best accomplishments that they accomplished on the job. Every accomplishment They can write it in one paragraph. They can write it in a full sheet. I don't care how they do it, but they're going to provide me with an inventory that tells the who, what, where, when, why, and how behind every accomplishment. That story is gold, because here's the thing, and I tell the story often, and the story might be in the book. I actually forget right now. A woman who turned into a good friend of mine came to me, and she was a chemical engineer, state of Texas, EPA certified, state of Texas certified. She had kept her certifications alive, but she hadn't worked for 12 years because she went home to have a family. So she called me up and she said, I want to get back in the market. And I said, great. I said, it's probably going to take some effort, but let's do it. We can do this. So I said, can you write me up a list of your best accomplishments, who, what, where, when, why, and how? Give me all the details, any numbers you remember, everything. So about 3 or 4 days later, she came to me and she had 18 handwritten pages, college ruled paper, and she had written out all this information. So now remember this, I'm not a chemical engineer. Okay, that's important to this story. So I look at the first one and I hand it to her. And I look at the next one and I'm not reading, I looked, I'm just glancing, and I hand it to her. And the next one, and I hand it to her. And she stops me and she's getting upset and she says, you're not going to read those? And I said, no. I said, that wasn't for me. I don't even know what chemical engineering means. I don't know any of this lingo, period. So, but here's the thing. By doing that, she was now ready to create her resume. And that's my secret sauce. You can't write your resume until you have your inventory. So then she wrote her resume, and then she put her LinkedIn profile together. And more importantly, with all this information top of mind, she was ready to nail the interview. I had told her when we first met, I said, Terry, this could take a year and a half before you land, because it's been 12 years since you've been in the environment. Smartly, she had maintained her certifications. So EPA and state of Texas were still in effect. She landed in about 5.5 months. And they brought her in at a number 3 slot with this really big contracting company here in Houston. And within about 9 or 10 months, she was in charge of a team of 9 men. And within about 2 years, she was in charge of 2 full teams with 2 projects going on with 9 men, all men on each team. I mean, she is still there today, even through the pandemic. She's there. But she couldn't have done that without that accomplishments inventory. So that is my secret sauce. That is how you do things to get yourself ahead in terms of employment. And listen, to what you do, Luis, you want successful people, because then you are able to invest and finance and take care of their futures and their retirements and get their goals met. But this is the way to get those people successful enough to that point where they have enough excess income. Not excess, it's never excess, is it? But enough income for the investment. Discretionary, that's the word I was looking for. Discretionary income they can invest and work with. And so this is how it's done. This is how it's done. And by the way, that is my entry-level college guys and girls and my senior CEOs. They've all done the same thing. So in the young people just getting out of college, we can go back to high school accomplishments. We can talk about college accomplishments. Your first resume is not the same as any other resume you'll ever use. When you first come out of college, it's like I tell people, you get one chance, one time to be an entry-level employee, and that's when you graduate college. After that, you better put on your big boy pants, because you're competing with the big guns. There's no more first time out. But I still use these accomplishments. I built an entire resume for a brand new college graduate. It was built around the fact that he was on the captain for the state championship soccer team. That's leadership. That's responsibility. That's motivation. That's good stuff. Next time, we can't use soccer team captain on his next resume, his next
right.
job. Yeah,
Unique opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Now, how do you think that the pandemic, COVID-19, in the current environment has affected just the ability to articulate that value?
If anything, it's giving people the opportunity to take the time to think this stuff through a little bit. Let's face it. I've been working by myself from home for 12, 15 years. It's not It's not uncommon for me to be at work at 7. It's also not uncommon for me to be working at 9, 10, 11 at night. I've had people receive email from me at 4 in the morning, and they were going, "Were you working?" And I go, "No, it's just that it hit me. I got out of bed. I went and typed that out really fast. There's no reason to write it down. Just send that email." And I just said, I know I just needed to get off my mind while it was top of mind because I was going to forget it. I went back to sleep. So all that said, but my point to this is that people now, especially if you're working virtual and remote, you have more time. I know you have more time when you were now that you don't have the commute, now that you don't have that lunch date that you're going to go out and have lunch with 5 people or go out after work and have a drink and stuff. That's time that can be spent with some looking deeply inside and start thinking about personal best accomplishments. So while I hope COVID doesn't last long, I personally can't even get myself back on the road until we have a vaccine. That's how I make my living. It's not, you don't make money writing books. You make money speaking and presenting based on those books. So I'm looking to a vaccine, but yeah, right now people do have the time. Don't squander it.
Got it. Excellent point. Absolutely. Yeah, you're so right. It's like, look, you're still working, right? But you have the time back from not commuting to and from, and also, like you said, maybe the lunch date or whatever. So there's a way to take those 2 to 3 minutes to write down your accomplishments for the day, tag them in your calendar, use the ampersand or something to let yourself know that there's something written that day. Yeah, that's awesome. Appreciate that.
And I understand too that people have kids at home and there's, the dogs and making noise and you got to fix dinner and all that stuff. But I know there's still going to be that half hour, 45 minutes. You really can go personal and be reflective on that during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rick. And I look forward to the revamp of your book with the whole rebrand. And yeah, expect this summer 2021, correct?
Yeah, that is what's targeted. And that'll be my quotient model, which is about a new metric for measuring personal value for the person who is a paycheck worker.
Got it. And in the meantime, where can our listeners find you on social media or websites, things like that?
Well, my website is rickgillis.com, and it's a very skinny site right now because I had it all built out for the last book, which, by the way, I can't show you, but it's those white books behind me, the original Quotient book, and the new Leveling the Paying Field book. I'm not going to expand my personal website until I get the new cover and I can start talking about that. So right now it's a 1 page. However, if people go to rickgillis.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, there is the letter J inside a little circle down at the bottom. If you click on that, it'll take you to my job support documents. It'll take you to my YouTube channel. And it's all free. There's nothing there. I'm not trying to make any money on anybody there. You can see my accomplishments inventory statement. You can see my resume formats that I've developed over the years. They're highly efficient. They work really well with keywords and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing is LinkedIn, linkedin.com. Find me, Rick Gillis, Houston. I really am an open networker, and I really do provide all the support I can to anybody that reaches out and has a valid reason to discuss, employment, their future, or whatever. I'm really, until I'm too busy, I'm right now happy to help anybody that needs it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So rickgillis.com. For those of you listening, this is episode 42. I will also be putting the contact information and direct links to Rick Gillis's website, YouTube channel, and social media. Episode 42, you just got to go to onmywaytowealth.com and go hit podcast and find episode 42 with Rick Gillis, and you'll be able to access all those links because there are some great resources on his website. Thank you so much, Rick, for sharing with us. And I really look forward to having you back once the book is out so that we can promote it and offer some copies to our listeners. I know I have my original book copy signed. So
right.
Like you said, hopefully it will be a collector's item one day.
I hope so, man. And I'll tell you what, I look forward to coming back on when I do have a new cover and we can discuss it. And I'll go a little bit deeper into the methodology.
That'll be awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to your upcoming event as well. And it's awesome. And I think you gave such great value here. So people will definitely get a lot of great content out of this conversation and your website. So thank you again.
You bet, man. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to go to onmywaytowealth.com. If you haven't given us a review on iTunes, please do so. Make it a nice one. And if you have any questions, send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.